Welcome to Let's Talk Bayfront, a lunchtime chat about the transportation projects happening along the Bayfront Parkway in the city of Erie. I'm your host, Jill Harry, the press officer and community relations coordinator for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's Northwest region. The Bayfront Parkway is an important corridor for residents, commuters, and visitors. It is used by thousands of drivers every day, as well as hundreds of pedestrians and cyclists. Recognizing how instrumental the road is to the quality of life and future prosperity of the city and the region, PennDOT has partnered with various groups to identify and design improvements at different areas of the parkway. Most notable among those is the Central Corridor Project, which is an extensive plan to improve accessibility, safety, and efficiency along the parkway from Sassafras to Holland. Today's episode, however, will focus on another important Bayfront project, the Cranberry Street intersection improvements. PennDOT construction team member Doug Fry and a member of our traffic unit, Ed Orzehowski, are here to discuss the details planned for that area. We also have Justin Baker with us to give an update on what's happening in the Central Corridor. But before we dive into our discussion, I want to remind those listening live that you can submit questions throughout the program by using the Q&A chat box feature. As time allows, we will get to as many of those questions on today's topic as we can. You can also turn on captions by clicking on the three dots near the top of your screen, then choosing Language and Speech in the drop-down box and turn on live captions. Now to focus on today's conversation, the Cranberry Street intersection. Welcome to the show, Doug and Ed. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about your work at PennDOT and how it relates to this project? Doug, we'll have you go first.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. As Jill said, my name is Doug Fry. I am the Senior Assistant Construction Manager for District 1. Worked for the department for 27 years now, most of the time spent in construction and maintenance. And I previously was an assistant construction engineer for Erie County for 8 years, prior to going to maintenance for a couple years. So I'm pretty familiar with the Erie area.
My name is Ed Orzehowski. I'm the Assistant District Traffic Engineer for District 1 here at PennDOT, and I have oversight over the traffic signals. And my involvement in this project was my team was the one that designed the intersection, and I've been with the department about 11 years now. And I'm actually born and raised in Erie here, so I'm excited to see the project come to fruition here at Cranberry, and then also the Central one as well.
So we got someone with a lot of construction experience, someone with a lot of knowledge of traffic lights. So it sounds like the perfect combination to discuss Cranberry Street. So before I ask you guys any question, I'm just going to set the stage a little bit. So Cranberry Street meets Bayfront at a T-shaped intersection that's between 6th Street and Niagara Point Drive. So currently right there, we have a stop sign on Cranberry where there is a left and a right turn lane. And then there's also a left turn lane on the Bayfront for westbound traffic that wants to turn onto Cranberry Street. And then as far as pedestrians, we have a crosswalk and we have some warning signs. And then we have a lot of traffic that moves through there. Does that accurately describe the intersection, would you say, Doug?
Yep, that's it.
So how will this project enhance that intersection?
Overall, the project's going to increase the safety of the intersection. It'll allow pedestrians to get across the intersection, at a light, rather than just the flashing beacons now that are there. And it'll provide a signal for traffic to exit and enter the Bayfront, rather than just waiting for a gap in current traffic.
So we're putting a signal where there is a stop sign, and we're putting in pedestrian signal where there currently is just flashing warning beacons. That's the overall description of the project?
Correct, yeah, Jill. And also kind of from the driver's perspective, the new traffic light itself will kind of feel like any other light around town. There's nothing really too fancy about this one, especially with Cranberry just being a T intersection. And then also, like you mentioned, there is the left turn lane coming away from the Bayfront there to turn onto Cranberry. And drivers can expect to see a green left turn arrow there, as well as a yellow flashing arrow to turn left there as well. A couple other safety features that will be at the intersection is the signal heads themselves will have yellow fluorescent retroreflective borders around the signal heads themselves. That's kind of a standard practice we've been doing for a handful of years now. But that kind of really helps to enhance the visibility of the lights, especially during those nighttime hours or in the morning with fog.
So when I was looking over the project description, it mentioned something about emergency vehicle preemption capabilities. So can you, Ed, maybe explain kind of what is that, and is that something that is common for traffic lights now?
Sure. Yeah, this traffic light will feature emergency preemption. The system we are installing is called Relco. It's actually a product that was invented and is still manufactured to this day in Erie since about the 1960s. It does rely on radio transmitters to be installed in the emergency vehicles. But as they approach a traffic light, they can flip a switch, and then an antenna on the traffic signal picks up the transmission, and it allows the approach that the emergency vehicle is approaching to be green once it's safe. And by safe, I mean if a pedestrian is already crossing the bayfront, it won't just turn the light green on bayfront for them. The signal still has to go through its clearance phases and make sure it's safe for the approach to turn green. But this will be a big help as emergency services try to go places such as the Bayfront or down to Hammond as well. The Relco system is used pretty much exclusively around Erie County. There are some other systems out there, but this one is tried and true, and it works good.
So if we switch gears then to the pedestrian side of the signal, so safety has always, been a topic there for the pedestrians, for the last few years, especially when people were coming to us and saying they were having a difficulty getting to the Bayfront multimodal trail when they're coming from the Bay and Harbor neighborhood. So how will this project and these improvements make it easier for those pedestrians to get across the Bayfront?
So we're going to be installing 2 crosswalks to cross the Bayfront from Cranberry. Those crosswalks will feature pedestrian signal heads as well as talking push buttons. So once the push button is pushed, you'll get the walk sign to cross the street. One of the key safety features of the crosswalks that we're starting to do more and more is what's called a leading pedestrian interval. And what this does is it gives the walk sign to cross the Bayfront about 2 to 3 seconds ahead of the green light for the cars on Cranberry. So what this does is it allows the pedestrian to walk out in the crosswalk and get established before vehicles on Cranberry get the chance to go. And another important note is you can only obviously cross the Bayfront on foot while the Bayfront itself has the red lights.
So does work like this, Doug, involve any detours, or what kind of traffic delays might people experience there, since this is such a popular roadway?
Well, I guess that's kind of 2-part. The pedestrians, they have to dig for foundations for the new mast arms are going to have to go behind the existing trail. So there's going to be some restrictions. Was out there this morning talking with the contractor. I mean, they're planning on having basically flaggers on the trail itself to help guide the pedestrians and the bicyclists around the work zone while they're working there. So there may be they may experience some delays. And then we also have a 24-hour closure that we're going to have on the bike trail when we do the final tie-in with the new sidewalk. The motorists, traffic will generally be controlled through lane shifts and some flagging operations. There really isn't any detours expected, but there is some delays that are probably going to be expected just with the the lane shifts and the lane restrictions.
So traffic will continue to move through there, but people should expect to see sometimes some tie-ups when certain work is being done. Maybe take other ways if they can at those times.
Yeah, I mean, 12th Street's a good alternative to get around the area. Same with the Central Bayfront project. Same deal there. I mean, traffic's open for the most part. There are some lane restrictions and some flagging. I guess Justin can probably talk more about that, but yeah, same deal. I mean, 12th Street's a good, viable alternative.
So it's interesting that you brought up Justin, because I was going to ask, like, this project is happening only, a few intersections away from Justin's project down there in the central part of the Bayfront. So what kind of coordination has to happen when you have these projects happening, pretty close to each other with all of that traffic coming through?
I mean, I know in general, the department always looks at nearby projects. They look at the type of traffic control and the impacts, and they try to schedule the work so it doesn't impact, or so they're not conflicting work zones. I mean, actually, there's 3 projects on the Bayfront, one on the east side, access as well. They're all going on this fall, and they're all going to have lane restrictions with minimal flagging operations. So there really aren't any detours, and that's something the department always looks at, to make sure they don't detour a project's traffic through a detour, just to minimize confusion. But in all, like I said, all 3 of the projects are mainly just going to have lane restrictions in place, which there are no detours, so you may expect some delays, but really not going to have any stopped.
So Justin, I'm going to switch over to you at this point, and just maybe you can give us a little bit of an update on what's happening on the Central Bayfront. I'm sure that people listening to this may have noticed all the utility related work that's been happening down there, and some of the traffic changes because of that. So, how's that work going, and how's the nighttime work going?
Yeah, so we're moving along with the utility relocations now, and things, I don't want to jinx it, but things have actually been going pretty smoothly as it relates to that. Obviously, people that have been driving by have really started to notice a lot more. What's visually appears to be a lot more activity, and you're starting to see things like pavement operations get underway and things that generally equate with productivity. So we've got quite a bit going on. The nighttime work across the Bayfront really is done, to help ease the traffic restrictions that would be implemented otherwise. There's a tremendous amount of traffic on the Bayfront, in the morning and late afternoon into early evening. So by doing this work at night, it really helps to reduce the impact to the traveling public. And of course, we try to make every effort to do that when it's reasonable and feasible to do so.
And the roundabout down at Sassafras, it looks like it's really starting to take shape as well.
Yeah, it is. Kind of like I alluded to earlier, the paving's done on the huge majority of the northern portion of the roundabout, and you'll see in the next week or two, we'll actually be shifting the Sassafras traffic up onto the new pavement for the north and south traffic exclusively. This is required as we tear out what is the existing Sassafras road in between, and then it's just simply basically tying the 2 stretches of pavement together. So this work, is all being done in a way that helps to control and increase the traffic flow as efficiently as possible. So we kind of got to piecemeal this together, but by doing so, it allows the public to have the most efficient experiences as we can provide.
All right, I'm looking at the time, and we've got time for a couple more questions. So first one for you, Doug. So the Cranberry Street project, it's only 1 intersection versus Justin's, which is 3, but it still says in the project information that it won't be done until next year. So why will this project require some work in 2025?
Well, the schedules for the project is to have the signal up and operational by early December of this year. We'll need to come back in the spring to do some final grading and to reseed and mulch any of the disturbed areas that obviously aren't going to grow this, that late in the season when we get that done. So basically the time in 2025 is basically just for the, like I said, the regrading, reseeding, and then it allows 45 days for that seed to catch, and then we have to have 70% catch before we can remove our ENS controls that, you know, come down, and at that time the project will be complete. And I did touch base with the contractor today. They said as of today, everything is on order. All the poles and the signals, everything is on order and is scheduled to be here on time to meet that early December deadline.
So just for clarity, we're expecting the signals to be installed and on by the end of the year. So people will see those traffic signals in functioning by the end of the year. That's our ballpark right now.
Yep, yeah, that's the schedule. And like you said, the contractor verified this morning that all the materials are scheduled to be here on time to meet that, like I said, mid-December deadline to get it up and operational.
All right, Justin, now I have a follow-up question for you as well. So they've been doing a lot of work down there at State Street, and I think it's becoming more and more obvious to drivers now, because before you were working a lot down below the roadway. Now you're up closer to the existing Bayfront Parkway. So what is it that they're doing there? It looks like maybe they're building some kind of a bridge with all that rebar.
Yeah, sure. So it's a new MSE wall, which is ultimately going to support what is the westbound traffic and the final layout for the Bayfront. But all the rebar you're seeing is something that's called a moment slab, and in the simplest terms, think of it as a cap for the top of the wall. And what it does is it prevents, in the case of an accident or just in daily use, it prevents any failures from occurring in that wall. So it's a pretty stout part of the structure, and that's why you see so much rebar in it. But it essentially builds a barrier, which allows us to pave up against it. And the next step is to pave the portion of the old Bayfront into what is the new Bayfront, and then traffic will be switched over and shifted to the north side of Sassafras.
Well, thank you for all of these great updates. Thank you, Doug and Ed and Justin, for taking time out, especially during was normally probably your lunch break, to give us all these details and update the public on everything that's happening there. Thank you to everyone who joined us today during this live episode. Also to those who might be listening to the recording afterwards. Information on the October edition of Let's Talk Bayfront will be posted on the Bayfront Parkway Facebook group. It'll also be on our regional X account, which is at 511 PA Erie, as well as on our project page, which is penndot.pa.gov/Bayfront Parkway Project. So just keep an eye on there, and we'll let you know what our next topic will be. If anyone has a suggestion on a topic they would like us to discuss, you can send that as well as any questions you have about the projects to bayfrontproject@pa.gov. So thanks again to Doug, Ed, and Justin. Thanks to Saxon for producing today's show, and everyone have a great afternoon.